Hey home bakers, it's Jack here, bakewithjack.co.uk, bringing you your weekly bread making tip every single Thursday. And this week, what's the best way to freeze and defrost little small rolls like this one I made last week? Let's find out, shall we? Hey you guys, and welcome back to the Bake with Jack YouTube channel, where I share a little bit of my bread making expertise every single Thursday. If that's your cup of tea and you're new, if you like what you see and you want to stick around, consider pressing that subscribe button. Let's get on with it. I don't care what anybody says. Fresh bread freezes really well, and it's the best way to keep it as close to fresh as possible. If you bake it, let it cool completely and put it straight in the freezer, that's the best way to keep it as close to fresh as possible. Plus, it's 2019. We're living in this modern age and everybody's got a freezer these days, right? This is where everyone scrolls down to the comments box and starts typing in stuff like, oh, well, I haven't got a freezer because I live in a cave. So anyway, I made these little lemon-shaped rolls last week in a video that went out last week. And I thought, let's freeze them down for the following week and I can show them exactly how I did it and the best way we can find out together of bringing them back to life after. The best way I find of freezing breads like that is to put them all together in a freezer bag like this one. A resealable Ziploc freezer bag, so you can take them out as and when you want to and seal it back up again afterwards. You can even rinse out these bags, dry them and reuse them. Just make sure you pop the date on there when you made them so you don't forget, and ideally what they are in the bag before you freeze it, because I'm one of those people who goes, oh, well, I'll remember what that is in there, and I never remember what that is in there. Use reusable bags, label them nicely and make sure that they are sealed airtight. If they're not airtight and a little bit of air gets in, you get what's called freezer burn, which is when your bread goes a little bit white where it's exposed to the air, a little bit dry. It's still edible, but it just goes all a little bit weird. For this video, I tried 4 different ways to resurrect the freshness of these rolls that had been previously frozen. And I think the same principle will apply to any small roll that you're putting on the side of a soup, for example. Any small crusty roll or even a small baguette. You might have to adjust the timings depending on size. The bigger it is, it might take slightly longer to bake through to the middle. The first one I did was an overnight defrost. I took the bag out of the freezer, left it on the kitchen side at room temperature overnight to let it defrost nicely in the morning. And this is how it came out, okay? It's defrosted, it's quite soft, which means it's gonna be quite chewy. There's no crust present, it's all evened itself out thanks to that plastic bag. We lose the definition of the crust and the crumb. That's the first one I tried. The second one, I upped the game a touch. Bread roll number 2 is the same principle. I took it out of the freezer, left it on the side in the bag overnight, exactly the same as the other one, but after that I then put it in an oven that was preheated to 200 degrees C. That's 392 degrees Fahrenheit, gas mark 6. I popped it in there for 10 minutes and take a look at it. It's real nice and crusty. Listen. Oh yes. There is an element of crust falling off here, detaching itself, and I'm going to talk to you about that later on, because that happened in almost all cases. I'll tell you exactly why that happened at the end of the video. All in all, this one came out really nicely. It's well crusty. I had to preheat the oven and then 10 minutes in the oven and it came out just like this. In the interest of convenience, I wondered what it would be like if I took it straight out of the freezer and popped it straight into the oven, and that's roll number 3. This one here, which is really nice and crusty as well, listen, was put into an oven that was cold. I put it straight out of the freezer into the oven on the oven shelf in a cold oven. Then I turned the oven on and it took around 17 minutes for this to get completely baked outside and inside. In 17 minutes, my oven reached about 180 degrees C. That's 356 degrees Fahrenheit, gas mark 4 or 5 or something around there. This one came out real nice and crusty and was super easy. I'm gonna cut it open. Oh yes! Here we can see it, right? It's nice and fluffy inside, it's crusty on the outside. It's just nice. I like this, and it was so easy. The fourth and final bread roll came straight out of the freezer, but this time into a hot preheated oven at 200 degrees. And this is what it came out like. This one, it's really nice and golden actually, but it's really properly crusty. This one took 12 minutes to bake through to the center, which means the outside is really quite crusty. 12 minutes at 200 degrees, that's really quite crusty outside. I'm gonna cut this one open too. Whoa, serious. This one's got the crispiest crust by far. It's properly solid on the end. But it's nice and fluffy and bouncy in the middle, exactly the same as the rest. So I thought that was a pretty thorough test. 4 different ways to test how to defrost bread rolls. And you know what? I think the best one for me was number 3. It all depends on what you fancy and what's convenient to you. Number 3, straight out of the freezer into that cold oven, turn it up, 17 minutes, it's ready. No preheating the oven, no waiting for that to happen. Real nice and crusty on the outside, absolutely perfect. That has got to be, for me, the best way. Isn't it nice when the most convenient way turns out to be the best way? That is really nice. When does that actually happen? Ever. So remember I mentioned about that detachable crust. You may have been noticing that little shards and fragments of bread crust shrapnel has been scattered all over my lap for the duration of this video, and that's down to one thing. That's because I baked these rolls fully before I froze them, and that's because I wasn't thinking ahead. I baked those rolls fully last week, froze them down, and I thought let's use it for another video next week. If you were thinking ahead and you were baking to freeze, I would recommend part baking your bread to avoid this. That means baking it so it's baked to the middle, but with minimum colour on the outside. That way, when you bring it back again, it won't be over baked on the outside, and that crust should maintain in contact with the rest of your roll. And there you have it. As always, I hope that helped you out. Remember, baking times always vary depending on your oven. It requires a little bit of trial and error, but get it out of the freezer, straight into the oven, turn it on. 17 minutes is what it took me. Might take you a little bit more, might take you a little bit less, but that was pretty wicked result. Thank you guys so much for watching my video every single Thursday. This is one of those things that I've never really actually put to the test, but now I have, and now I'm happy. So thank you very much. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you did, please click the thumbs up button, and if you haven't subscribed already, consider clicking that button. It really helps me out loads. I look forward to see you next week for another tip. Bye-bye. This video is brought to you advertisement free because personally I don't like them and I wouldn't wish them on anybody else. Because of that, there's no monetary income from YouTube for my work here, and if you'd like to contribute in some way, if you'd like to support my channel here, you can buy stuff. Scrapers and cloths and bread making bits and bobs are available from the Bake with Jack shop, shipping literally wherever you are in the world. Just visit bakewithjack.co.uk/shop or click the link underneath in the description of this video. Thank you. See you next week.